Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a look at a book you might have heard of, James Redfield's The Celestine Prophecy. But here's the twist. We're not going to treat it like some adventure novel. No, we're going to deconstruct it. We're going to look at it as a fascinating structural model, almost like a blueprint, for how systems of meaning actually spread. And it all comes down to how it teaches you what to notice, how to interpret what you see, and this is the real kicker, how to deal with your own doubt. So, what exactly is this system we're talking about? Well, at its core, it's basically a belief formation system. Think of it like this. It's a kind of spiritual machine. It's designed to take all the messy, random, uncertain parts of life, weird coincidences, arguments with people, and process them. And what comes out on the other side? A neat, tidy, and totally coherent spiritual framework. It turns chaos into meaning. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, I want you to imagine something. The book operates kind of like a lens kit for your brain. Seriously. It doesn't just hand you a bunch of facts. Instead, it gives you a series of new lenses to snap over your eyes. And each insight you get from the book, that's a new lens. And with each one, it systematically changes what you even count as evidence and what you start to accept as the truth.
All right, the perception system. Let's break down how this lens kit actually works. See, the book doesn't just dump everything on you at once. It unfolds through a series of insights, where each one builds on the last, layering these new perceptual lenses one on top of the other.
It all starts out pretty simply. Step 1, you get the coincidence lens. Suddenly, everyday little things aren't random anymore. They're reframed as meaningful, almost destined. Then, step 2, you slap on the energy lens. Now, the whole universe, every conversation you have, it's all redefined as a flow of energy. And finally, step 3, you add the control drama lens. This one is a biggie. It recategorizes every argument you have as a deep, moral struggle over that energy.
Okay, the incentives for belief. So the big question is, why is this framework so compelling? I mean, why would anyone want to use this lens kit in the first place? Well, it's because it offers some really powerful psychological incentives.
It really boils down to 4 key things. First, seeing coincidences as meaningful. That dials down the scariness of a random universe. Second, talking about energy gives you this super simple tool to understand your messy relationships. Third, as you go through the insights, it feels like you're leveling up, like you're getting a real identity upgrade. And last but not least, when you share this framework with others, you build a community, and that just reinforces everything you've started to believe. This quote right here just nails that first incentive. Listen, they feel destined, as though our lives had been guided by some unexplained force. The experience induces a feeling of mystery and excitement, and as a result, we feel more alive. See? The system turns all that chaotic noise of life into a comforting signal. A random meeting isn't just random anymore, it's destiny. And the payoff isn't just less anxiety, the book promises it'll make you feel more alive. And then you've got the second big pull. It gives you a whole new language for social stuff. Check out this quote. Humans are stuck in a kind of competition for each other's energy. So every single interaction can now be reframed as this competition for energy. It's a pretty dramatic, but also super simple way to finally make sense of why some people leave you feeling totally drained and others leave you feeling energized. It gives a name to those invisible currents in our social lives. Now, this next one is huge. It's all about personal evolution. The framework doesn't just promise to teach you things. It promises to change you. As you master these insights, you're not just learning, you're literally becoming a new person. And as the book says, you're operating at a higher vibration. It's basically a gamified path to self-improvement. Who wouldn't want that? Next up, predictable patterns and outcomes. So what happens if you actually adopt this lens kit and start using it all the time? Well, as it turns out, the system creates some remarkably predictable patterns in how you start to see the world. Okay, let's take a classic example. A simple argument. From a standard point of view, interpersonal conflict is, well, it's just a conflict, a disagreement. But once you put on the systems lens, it gets a massive reframe. It's no longer just a fight. It becomes a moralized struggle for power. It's now a zero-sum game for a limited resource called energy. And that idea leads directly to this concept of control dramas. The system basically hands you a field guide for how people manipulate for energy. You start categorizing everyone. Is that person aggressive? Oh, they're an intimidator. Is someone else playing the victim? That's a classic poor me move to get your sympathy and your energy. It gives you these neat, tidy boxes to sort all of messy human behavior into. And here's where it gets really, really clever and a little bit tricky. This quote shows how the whole thing becomes a closed, self-reinforcing loop. Your reaction to someone else's control drama is just another drama. An intimidator makes someone play the poor me victim. See? Every single action and reaction has an explanation inside the system. And that makes it almost impossible to argue against or prove wrong.
So, okay, this brings us to a really crucial question, right? If a system is this tight, this self-reinforcing, what happens to doubt? What does it do with good old-fashioned skepticism, whether it's coming from someone else or even bubbling up inside of you?
And here's the answer. It's brilliant, in a way. Doubt isn't seen as a valid intellectual challenge. Nope, it gets completely reclassified as a personal spiritual failure. So if you're feeling skeptical, it's not because the system might have a tiny little flaw. No, it's because you have fallen back into a bad habit. It's because you've become disconnected from the source. The system's ultimate defense is to make disbelief a personal problem.
Okay, section 4, how the system persists. So how does a framework like this actually stick around? Let's dig into the mechanisms that allow it to not just survive, but actually to thrive and spread.
Well, the system persists because it's just incredibly sticky. For one, it rewards you for paying attention by giving you a sense of meaning. For two, it gives you this amazing emotional closure by providing a spiritual reason for literally everything. And three, it scales up beautifully. It spreads through stories and gets stronger and stronger as people who believe in it find each other.
And this brings us to the absolute core of our analysis. This is where we can pinpoint the crisis in perception. It happens at that precise moment when the comfort you get from interpreting the world this way gets mistaken for actual structural truth. The real crisis hits when the lens you're looking through is no longer a tool you're using, but it becomes reality itself. All right, for our last section, let's zoom all the way out. The marketplace of meaning. Because a system like this, no matter how effective it is, doesn't just pop up in a vacuum. It's actually the perfect product for this bigger ecosystem out there, a kind of marketplace for meaning. I mean, just think about the cultural currents that are pushing this stuff forward. You've got huge self-help and spiritual publishing markets. You have a pretty widespread distrust of a lot of traditional institutions. And on top of all that, we live in an attention economy that absolutely rewards simple, catchy frameworks that are super easy to share. It's the perfect storm.
So, at the end of the day, this whole analysis is less about trying to figure out if the claims in the book are true or false. It's really about something much more interesting. It's about how systems like this train our perception and then, crucially, how they defend that new training as reality. Understanding that underlying mechanic, that's the real key here.
Crisis in Perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.